Thanks for joining us here on Fox 9 All Day. I'm Courtney Godfrey. We are following right now a press briefing by the U.S. Forest Service as they are updating the public on the wildfires that continue to burn across northern Minnesota. Let's dip into that.
And as noted, then Drew Stroberg will come on to do an overview of the closure, and then we'll field into questions. Thanks.
Right. Good afternoon. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me out there in virtual land. Anybody?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, my name is Nick Petruk. I'm the Superior National Forest Fire Staff Officer. As Joy alluded to, our pleasure to bring you some information and an update on some of the fires that we've been seeing on the Superior National Forest and up in Northeast Minnesota in general. So on July 7th, the forest has been, under pretty dry conditions. We saw a lightning storm come through that caused most of all these fires. All in all, around 21 fire starts, about 14 on Forest Service ground and 7 with our partners. The cause of these fires, definitely through that lightning storm that we came, we had under some really dry conditions, we've seen some rapid fire growth along with our fuels conditions. So in the last 3 days, 4 days, we've seen some increased fire behavior. In the last couple of days with the high temperatures and the humidity and some winds, we are seeing some growth in our fires on the landscape. The forest has made a decision that we'll be, closing the Boundary Waters Wilderness down tomorrow for the firefighter and the public safety aspect. That's a very difficult decision. We put a lot of effort and strategy into making these decisions, knowing how important it is the wilderness is for all of us. So really what we have happening here is a cluster of fires within the Boundary Waters and some outside of the wilderness. The ones inside the wilderness are your largest fires. We have like the Thumb Fire, which is probably around 5,000 acres, the Bear Trap Fire, which is about 3,000 acres, and the Dark Fire, which is around 600 acres. Those are estimated as of last night when we do our mapping capability. So we will be getting an update, situational awareness, help us out as the day goes on.
Josh, I figured it out.
A lot of
okay. You got it.
We're utilizing a lot of aviation apps, a direct suppression strategy, utilizing natural boundaries where we can, and we're assessing all these things constantly. One of the big things I'd like to stress is that the public safety side of it. We're doing everything we can to make sure the public is out of the way, giving advance notice. With the extended forecast being dry, no significant rain in the horizon, that we have to do our due diligence to get the public out. Along with that, we're looking at where we can put our firefighters in safely. Some of these areas are very remote, so it's not feasible to really insert our people at this time on certain parts of the fire or some fires in general. We're doing everything we can to work with our partners. It's been a strong coordination effort with the counties, the state, the sheriff's office, along with our international partners. Currently, there are 2 fires in the United States that do pose a threat to crossing into Canada, and Canada has one on the eastern part of our wilderness that is posing threats to come into the United States. So we have set up daily calls with our international partners to try to get ahead of the current fire situation that we're in. I'll pause there, Joy. Turn it over to Drew or take questions.
Yeah, let's go on and have Drew do an update on the closures, and then we can field questions after that.
So thank you. And first of all, I apologize for the background noise. I'm at the incident command post for the Type 3 team on the west side of the forest. So there's quite a few people in here. But yeah, with regard to the closure order, as Nick said, We've issued a closure order, actually updated closure order to include the entire Boundary Waters wilderness, starting at 12:01 a.m. July 14th. 6. Little background on this: on July 10th, soon after we got that lightning storm, we closed the westernmost portion of the Boundary Waters, the entire LaCroix district and a portion of the Quishway district as well. Along with that, we also instituted burning restrictions, fire restrictions, I should say, within the Boundary Waters that allowed folks to still have propane stoves, but no campfires in any of the pits. Our plan at the time was to try to manage through this with those two restrictions in place. But with the recent fire activity, especially yesterday with the red flag warning conditions, we had a couple of fires in the wilderness: the Thumb Fire, and then the Dark Fire, which is I believe was burned into the Bear Trap Fire as well. Had significant growth yesterday, and especially the Dark Fire and Bear Trap. They were burning to the east, and we're very close to our original closure order. And looking at the forecast, which called for more red flag conditions today, potential for more thunderstorms, dry thunderstorms later this week with more lightning, and potential for more starts, and continued dry weather for the next couple of weeks. Along with that fire in Canada, we made the very difficult decision to close the Boundary Waters for the time being. What we did is the decision was made late last night. We notified our cooperators yesterday evening so that they could notify any of the permittees that were going in this morning that the Boundary Waters would be closing, like I said, at 12:01 a.m. on July 14th. That way, we didn't have folks going in this morning just to be turned around. So, and then at 4 a.m., we notified permittees on recreation.gov that their permits would be canceled. We canceled all of the permits for the Boundary Waters through July 17th, and refunds were issued. We do not know how long this closure of the Boundary Waters will be in effect. Our intent is to keep it as short as possible. So, our goal is to make sure that people can have a reasonably safe experience in the Boundary Waters, and to protect the safety of the firefighters and the general public as well. But right now, we don't feel as though we can do that. A couple of things, points of discussion, and a couple of other reasons that we decided to close the Boundary Waters. One, for us to clear out the rest of the Boundary Waters, if it's not already closed, given our current staffing levels, that would take us about a week. And when I say clear out, that means that we would have, teams of 2 in a canoe, 4 service employees, going through lake by lake, checking each of the campsites to make sure that nobody was there. And if we, encounter people, to let them know that they need to vacate the area. So that we estimate would take about a week. Then the other thing is the potential for search and rescue, which we do get a fair number of search and rescues every year. Oftentimes that takes the use of our Beaver airplane, and the Beaver airplanes which are float planes and on the water. They've been heavily involved in the firefighting effort. So if we need to divert them to search and rescue, that's taking away that critical resource for us to be able to fight fire. Not just that, but if we have a search and rescue in there, we'd be putting, rescuers and other Forest Service employees in an area that's, potentially dangerous with the current fire activity. So those are kind of the main reasons that we decided to close the Boundary Waters. This is not something we take lightly. We had lots of discussion. The we fully recognize that this has a major impact on our communities, on people's livelihoods. We intend to keep this as short as possible. I do expect that when the full closure is eventually lifted, we would be able to reduce that in size because of the nature of these fires in there, especially like I said, the thumb fire, the dark fire, and the bear trap fire. In all likelihood, the only thing that's going to put those out fully is snow. We get snow in the fall. These things will likely be burning in some way, shape, or form until then. So when we can reduce the size of the closure area, I do expect that we will have some level of closure in effect around those fires for the duration of the season. That is all I have on the wilderness. The other part of this too, we have some fires, as Nick mentioned, on the west side of the forest, burning just to the southwest of Crane Lake. Most of these are smaller in size, but some are growing. We had approximately 10 fires in this area. 6 of those were federal, and then 4 were state, although we're still trying to determine the point of ignition on those incidents. And who has the fire depends on where the fire started. 2 of the fires over here that we are most concerned about. One is the Echo 2 fire that is burning just to the north of Echo Lake, directly south of Crane Lake. That one we had line all the way around it yesterday. It seemed pretty quiet, and then yesterday evening with the dry weather and the low relative humidity and the winds, it jumped our containment line, got active again, jumped our containment line, burned another 3 to 5 acres on the north side of the fire. We have line around the south side of it. As of this morning, they were working on trying to get line to the north of it, but we've had winds all day, so I'm expecting fire growth there, likely to the north and east. The other fire that we're concerned about, and this is right on the boundary of federal and state. We think it's, they've started on state, but we're not sure on this, but I'll go ahead and cover it. The Chubb fire, which is burning directly west of Crane Lake, between Crane Lake and Highway 53. That, I believe, is over 100 acres as of this morning. Had no containment on it, and again, expecting fairly significant growth today with the winds and the dry temperatures this afternoon. As I mentioned, for the rest of the week, looking at potential.
Oh, Drew, hold on. Somehow you got muted.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
So let me back up here. So we're looking at potential for dry thunderstorms Wednesday through Saturday of this week. Those storms will likely bring lightning, which obviously brings the better chance for more starts, or a chance for more starts, gusty outflow winds, and very little in the way of precipitation. We do not have any significant precipitation in the forecast for the next at least a couple of weeks. So that's kind of the short-term outlook for our weather. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Drew. I think we've covered most of the questions in the chat so far. Drew, can you describe how we are evacuating people in the boundary waters?
Yes, I can. So we have crews of 2 in a canoe that are going through and sweeping areas of the boundary waters. We say sweeping, meaning, like I said, they're going campsite to campsite and determining whether or not people are there. If they are, then they're making contact and letting know that they need to leave. A couple of things with this. Obviously, that takes a lot of time. There's a lot of lakes in the are a lot of lakes in the boundary waters, lots of portages, lots of area to cover. And with the resources we have, like I said, that we estimate that would take us approximately a week. The other thing, especially for those folks that are going into a closed area, they're required to be red carded or firefighter qualified. So we don't just send anybody in there to do that, just in case, one of these fires blows up, or if they get into a situation where they're, in imminent danger of a fire, we want them to have the proper training. So we're not just sending anybody in there. These are firefighter qualified individuals.
Nick, sorry, I asked that question with the Star Tribune. Can you just explain how they go around to these camps? I mean, is it by canoe? A lot of people think about helicopters when they think of evacuations, and I know that's probably not the case. Thank you.
It's by canoe. In some instances, if we have, motorized, some of our lakes in the boundary waters have motorized use. If a given lake has, allows for motorized use, then motorized use is allowed on a given lake, then we will use motorized equipment as well. For the most part, like in all the lakes that are non-motorized, it would be by canoe.
Hi, this is Bob Timmons, Christopher's colleague. Drew, can you talk about the numbers back to like the scale of doing something like this for the entirety of the boundary waters? How many rangers are out there over this next week? And are you getting assistance from any other agencies to do that work?
Yeah. So we had, the last time I checked, we actually had, we had 8 rangers out there, and that was with getting assistance from other neighboring forests. Like I said, one of the issues that we ran into is that we are requiring that they be red carded just for their own safety. So we only had eight rangers in there. We were trying to get some more in there as we speak, but we're limited in terms of the number of people we have. There's a question in here: are the backcountry rules still in effect for the rangers and firefighters? Yes, absolutely. They're hand tools only. They're not right now being dropped in via air or using chainsaws or anything like that. Outboard motors are allowed on the motorized lakes.
Thanks, Drew. This is Dave Orrick with the Star Tribune. I asked that question. Are you also mentioned aerial things? Are you dropping in retardant or water from the air on the fires in the wilderness yet?
I'm going to turn that over to Nick, because that's more of an operations discussion.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so thanks for the question. So right now we're focusing our efforts on water delivery aircraft. So whether it's fixed wing and or helicopters, certainly within the wilderness, we just use a water tactic. That's been the way we've been able to deal with these fires right now, just due to the intensity. It's been an aerial battle. So whether it's helicopters and or airplanes, the fixed wing scoopers, you'd be seeing water coming out of those at this time.
Do we know how many, thank you, Nick. Do we know how many people or parties are currently still in the boundary waters? I don't have that information in front of me. You can try to get that if needed. If any of the fires merged, I believe the dark fire and the bear trap fire were close to merging. Nick, I don't know if they've actually merged, if we've confirmed that. They were close.
Yeah, at this point, as an hour ago, they had not merged. It definitely looks like they are going to merge maybe by the end of the shift today.
Size and remoteness. Yes, the goal still is full suppression. One of the issues is in the boundary waters is, like I said, these fires are really difficult to get to. They're difficult to access. They're difficult to get the number of firefighters in there that we need to get in there, just because of where they are. When the thumb fire started, that was a good 3 or 4 portages to get to that, and then it was quite a ways off the nearest lake. So getting people into these fires and firefighters into these fires is definitely challenging. So our goal is to keep these as small as possible, but we're having to think a little bit bigger, bigger scale, just where we can, potentially hold these fires at. So it's we are trying to keep them as small as possible, and that is the definition of full suppression. At the same time, trying to be realistic. With regard to the staff shortages, we have orders that have been placed nationwide. A lot of our resources are coming from out west, so a lot of them coming from Arizona, New Mexico, places in the Southwest where we've seen fire activity. So it does take them, several days to get up here, because they're driving up here. They have all their equipment, all their vehicles and whatnot. Wildfire situation, the national wildfire situation. Yeah, we're in preparedness level 4 nationally. So that's on a scale of 1 to 5. That means that the majority of our firefighting resources nationally have been committed. So that does make it more difficult for us to get resources up here. How many staff? I know over here for the Type 3 team, I believe it was 70 firefighters on the ground this morning. And then we probably had another, 50 or so support staff. So I think we were at about 120 on the west side. Nick, I don't know what we have for the wilderness fires. So if you can help that.
Yeah, so right now we're staffing the fires that we can. Most of the work is, like I said, is being done with aerial resources, putting a lot of efforts into our public safety. Some of our firefighters do act as public safety to ensure the public is, out of the way. So we'll engage. We need a weather to cooperate in our favor before we can, throw a bunch of people in these remote areas for sure. So we strategically look at natural boundaries, where we're going to be successful with the amount of firefighters we have, and we chat about that on a daily basis and prioritize, where we need to put our people. That's an ongoing situation.
With regard to the permits that were canceled, that's something that we'll have to discuss. I don't know, Joy, if you have anything to offer on that one. If they're top of the queue, I don't believe that's the case. I believe that they go back into the queue. They got fully refunded. I don't believe that there would be any preference towards that. But Joy, I don't know if you have any information on that.
No, that's correct.
Question around. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. There was a question around the float plane use.
Yeah, I can take that. Are you in regards to using it for public safety?
Correct.
Yeah, so we certainly will if we have to. So our public safety people are traveling via canoe. They do the best they can to sweep the area, go to every campsite, ensure that people are moving along through the designated portages. If we do find an imminent threat where that fire may be moving closer than what we're comfortable with, we do certainly have the capability, if the pilots can land there, to give them a notification that way. But again, everything's a case by case basis. We do try to prefer the paddling in portion, but does lead to float plane use once in a while.
I think one of the other considerations there is, yes, we can use them, but those float planes, we call them beavers, is what we have. They're same, we call them beavers. They're also being used heavily to help fight these fires. So we can use them for assisting with the evacuation. We prefer to keep them on the fire. And we have in total we have three beavers that are available to us.
Emergency I gotta deal with.
Sometimes sometimes not all 3 are available. One's down for maintenance. They have maintenance requirements. They need to keep them serviceable.
Okay, we
Hey,
have
just
1
a
minute
minute
left
here.
and we are
Go ahead.
wrapping up here. I just wanted to share my screen real quick and just go over some things that I don't know how often this group here is utilizing the NCWeb system. I did put it into
Yep.
the
Yep.
I put it into the link into the chat here. And this is what sorry. Can you see this now? All right.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the NCWeb page, and this is our national system that we use, to track all of the fires around the nation within the Forest Service in incident command. So right now we have this under one wildfire right here. So if you click on that, that will take you to this page. This page has all of this information in it. So it has the information that we push out. It's a little clunky, but all the information is there. So highlighted all of our press releases. We have all of our closure information. We have all of the news releases. There's photographs for you to use. We only have one video in there right now, but we're working on more. And then there's also all of the maps that are related to this incident, or all of these incidents at this point are in this system. So for your reference, this page, again, I dumped it into the chat there, and it's in all their press releases. This page is really a huge resource for you. The other page that is a good resource for you is our alerts page on our Forest website that is also linked in the press releases. So here's our top, clicks, but there's also all of the different fire danger status and everything, alerts, and everything you'll ever want to know that we have released and published. So those are your two sources, primarily though going back to the NCWeb, especially because we have multiple, as Drew mentioned, we have a Minix team that's helping us out with part of our wildfires. Wednesday, we'll have a national team coming in to help out with the wilderness fires. They will have their own PIO team. So we'll be pulling all that information into one outlet. So we are working very diligently to try to pull this information. This is a little different than most situations with the high level of multiple wildfires going on. So bear with us as we're trying to get this information out to you as quickly as we can. And that is all we have for today. We will field questions in the chat and try to incorporate some of those going forward into our Q&A. But we thank you for your time, and let us know if you have any additional questions. But that's where we close today. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. You have been listening
Thanks.
to an update from the U.S. Forest Service regarding wildfires that continue to burn across northern Minnesota. As they mentioned there will be a massive closure of the Boundary Waters canoe area. Governor Tim Walz has declared a peacetime emergency and has activated the National Guard. Officials there with the U.S. Forest Service said that they intend to keep this closure as short as possible, as they are very much aware of the impact that this has on tourism and livelihood up there in northern Minnesota. They also mentioned that this is an all hands on deck situation and that their biggest support right now is coming from aerial support as they continue to use planes to try and put out these fires that are burning in northern Minnesota. Switching gears, because we have other news that we need to cover today. Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty announced today that federal law enforcement authorities have turned over previously withheld evidence connected to the shootings of 3 Minnesotans by federal agents during Operation Metro Surge this past winter. Fox 9's Corin Hoggard was at a press conference with Moriarty earlier today and joins us now. Corin, thanks for joining the show.
You got it, Courtney. Yes.
So what new evidence have they received?
They were not super specific about the evidence that they've received. It's a huge amount of evidence. And as you kind of can guess and probably know from covering these situations over the years, they don't really show all of their cards. But it's a huge amount of evidence that they are just now starting to inventory. Mary Moriarty did say that she was told it includes the body camera video from the agents who were involved in the Alex Preddy shooting. And so that was one of the few kind of tidbits about what actual evidence we can expect that they actually now have that she gave us. But beyond that, we just know it's a ton of evidence. She believes it's all of the evidence that the feds have collected that they had previously not chosen to share. In fact, they had blocked the BCA from even being at these scenes in all 3 cases after, initially allowing them, but then kicked them out of the scene over at the Good shooting and as well as at Sosa Solis and Alex Preddy shooting as well.
So then can we expect a charging decision from her, or what did she say about that at today's press conference?
Also not showing her cards fully there. The Hennepin County Attorney's Office has charged 2 ICE agents in relation to other incidents. In fact, one of them was the Sosa Solis shooting, based on some, alleged lies that were told to lead to Sosa Solis being charged himself that later kind of unraveled. Even the U.S. attorney dropped that case pretty quickly and, acknowledged that that was because of some problems with the evidence. But she's not saying that she's going to charge anybody or when. She's got no deadline, she said. She's going to do a thorough review, as she has done in any case, she says, that involves this type of situation with, law enforcement, any government agent involved in shooting a civilian. So she says she's going to take her time, dig into all this evidence, which is voluminous, and then make a decision after that. Again, no deadlines for that. She, depending, there's no, statute of limitations on killings typically. And so she's got all the time in the world, except that she won't be in office by January. So if it's her decision to make, it would have to be made by January.
Okay, so this press conference was really just to announce that they received the evidence and nothing to do with any charging decision. Did she talk about where local authorities' relationship stands with federal authorities? I mean, I would think it's improving if they've received this evidence, but what did she say about that?
Yeah, I mean, she did say that this is a return to normalcy. This is how it's always gone. The BCA has, as a matter of standard operating procedure, investigated any use of force by police, including by federal agents. In those cases, they are typically investigating side by side with the federal agency or a federal agency. And this is now what's happening 6 months after the Renee Good killing and almost 6 months since Alex Preddy was killed, more than 6 months since Julio Sosa Solis was shot. She did say that, the local partners were always kind of seemed to be on the same page with them. She was, very delicate about trying not to burn people higher up, let's say the food chain. But, she wouldn't say that, the White House was making decisions or anybody, at Homeland Security was making these decisions. But she was pretty clear that the local partners that they've always had were kind of on the same page with them and are on the same page with them now.
Okay, the state did sue the feds, I believe it was back in March, for refusing to share evidence. So is this dump of evidence, does this have anything to do with that lawsuit, or did she say?
It's not directly related, but I want to pull up a quote from her on that because she does believe that it is indirectly related, but not necessarily directly related. Let's see what she said. She told us, they're not dismissing that case right now because, they haven't been able to inventory all of the evidence at this point. But she said our willingness to seek transparency and not give this up, this lawsuit, she means, despite a number of barriers, which we certainly outline in our lawsuit, may have made a difference. And so it does seem like she at least believes that their persistence, hers and Attorney General Keith Ellison's, led to the feds kind of, finally deciding that they would have to share this evidence.
Okay. Corin Hoggard, Fox 9 reporter, I appreciate you joining us.
Yeah.
And in a statement from Renee Good's family, attorney Antonio Romanucci said the transfer of evidence, including Renee and Becca Good's vehicle, from federal to local authorities is an important and meaningful step towards justice and accountability. We are grateful for the resumption of regular investigatory protocols, which is not only important for the families impacted in these cases, but it is essential for the community and the country. That statement was released just within the last 20 minutes. And again, that was a statement from the attorney representing the family of Renee Good, who was killed by ICE agents in Minneapolis during Operation Metro Surge this past winter. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back after this with a whole lot more. Stay right there. Thanks for joining us here on Fox 9 all day. Let's have a quick check of your headlines. Well, wildfires continue to burn up in northern Minnesota, prompting the closure of the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness. Governor Tim Walz has declared a peacetime emergency and has activated the National Guard as firefighters battle multiple blazes fueled by hot, dry conditions. And while the BWCA is closed, many communities and businesses outside the closure area remain open to visitors. We are going to talk to the owner of the Gunflint Lodge in just a little bit about just that. And as another round of dangerous heat settles over Minnesota, health officials are reminding people to check before heading to the beach. Several metro beaches have temporarily closed because of elevated E. coli levels likely caused by recent rainfall, washing bacteria into area lakes. Officials say no illnesses have been reported, but swimmers should look for the latest water quality updates before they take to the beach to cool off. And those are usually found on your city's website or your county website. And a large fire heavily damaged a Rosemount church this morning, sending thick black smoke into the sky and drawing firefighters from multiple departments. Crews responded just before 11 a.m. to an Ethiopian Orthodox church, formerly the Lighthouse Church. Authorities believe the building was unoccupied, as no injuries have been reported. Police are asking for the public's help as they search for the driver who opened fire during an apparent road rage incident on Interstate 35E in Eagan. Investigators say multiple shots were fired at another vehicle Saturday evening, damaging it but causing no injuries. They're looking for a white Ford F-150 and urge anyone with information to contact Eagan police. Local authorities in Wabasha are identifying 2 of 3 who were killed in a pontoon crash over the weekend as Wabasha firefighters. 3 people are dead after that pontoon boat was involved in an accident and overturned on Lake Pepin Saturday night near Deer Island and the Minnesota-Wisconsin border. 3 other boaters were rescued after clinging to the overturned vessel. Authorities say the pontoon collided with a barge before capsizing. Let's get back to those fires because we do have someone on the line who is very close to this. John Frederickson is the owner of the Gunflint Lodge. And while the U.S. Forest Service is temporarily closing the Boundary Waters due to that wildfire activity, Gunflint Lodge says they're still open. John joins me now. John, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, I know that there are wildfires raging nearby, but it looks like a beautiful day up there at the Gunflint Lodge behind you.
Yeah, it sure is warm. It's a very nice day. I got the wind, which isn't great for the fires, but we're still enjoying the nice summer.
So I have to imagine you're fielding a lot of phone calls about this closure that's been announced in the Boundary Waters. Talk to me about what you guys are going through as business owners, trying to handle all these phone calls and people wanting to know if they can still come up.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, there's a lot of people who had Boundary Waters trips planned and kind of got short notice that they're going to have to make alternate plans. So we're working with those guests, trying to figure out alternate plans. Working with them to find other places to camp, and people are rolling with it pretty well. I mean, it's happened before. I think in 2021 it happened, so we have an idea how to handle it and work with folks. But hopefully it'll be short, and hopefully we'll get some rain soon to take care of some of these fires.
Yeah. How close are you to these fires?
So the closest one to us is one that's in Canada. That is just by Otter Track Lake, and that's 18 miles away from us. So we're quite a ways from it. But obviously the Forest Service decided they had to close the Boundary Waters because of the limited resources they have as far as staff to be able to work the fires and then not have to worry about travelers that are out in the Boundary Waters. So it's not. I mean, there's no direct impact as far as the fire is concerned. It's just the closure of the Boundary Waters. And, to be honest, people get a little bit frightened and try to alleviate those fears because we're far enough away from it.
So what has it looked like the last couple of days for you and your staff up there?
It's fine. We've got, as you can see, we've got nice blue skies. The air quality is great. We don't have smoke or anything like that. It's hot. We are used to colder weather up here typically, so the heat is gets people grumbling a little bit. But overall, it's good. Guests are happy. Still have people at the restaurant. Still people doing activities and having a good time.
I know that you've dealt with many wildfires before. How has navigating this in the past taught you some lessons? Like, what are some lessons that you take from that experience now this time around?
We just have to be, we have to be on our toes and roll with any changes that happen. Again, we found out last night that the Forest Service was closing the Boundary Waters. We had to be ready with the phone calls that started up first thing in the morning, people asking, what do I do? And dealing with that. And then just to kind of calm people down that it's not, a Chicken Little type situation where the sky is falling. It's there's fires that are a good distance away. Like I said, the nearest one is 18 miles from us, so we're way far away from it. And the forest fires don't move that fast. We've got lots of time if something does start to go this way. Although I suspect that the weather will change and things will update where we don't have to worry about fires on this lake right now. Hopefully, no more lightning strikes and nobody's lighting fires when they're not supposed to be.
So if guests wanted to come visit this week, will they encounter road closures, or is it pretty smooth sailing getting to you despite all these wildfires surrounding?
It should be smooth sailing. We've got the Gunflint Trail canoe races on Gunflint Lake this Wednesday, which would be fun for folks to come up. We got about 300 people on property and a bunch of different canoe races, so I definitely encourage people to come up. But there's no road closures, nothing blocked, no evacuations going on right now currently. So right now it's fine. It's fine where we are, and things should be good for people to come up here.
Is there an economic impact for you, though, when they say Boundary Waters are closed? I mean, for you and for the other businesses in the area.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime you're in the news for something going wrong in the area, it gets people a little bit worried and concerned, and we're trying to alleviate those fears. It's not an emergency situation where safety is an issue. It's just that we're keeping an eye on what the fires are doing, and we'll have time to adjust if things don't go our way.
So with the Boundary Waters closed, are there still outdoor activities to do around the lodge?
Yeah, for sure. It is. There's tons of stuff to do in the area. We've got a lot of activities on our property. We've got the zip line. We do Boundary Waters day trips. We've had to adjust those so they don't go into the Boundary Waters, but there are places that we can take people and show them what the Boundary Waters is like, even though you're not in the Boundary Waters. Like I said, we find alternate routes for people so they don't go into the Boundary Waters, but they're actually being able to enjoy the North Woods and have a very similar experience. Right now, there's a fire ban, so we can't be burning campfires, but we've run into that many times over the years, and people can adjust it pretty easily.
What's your message to people in the region who are considering or reconsidering a trip up north this week or this weekend?
I mean, I would definitely encourage people to come up. Obviously, it's beautiful summer. We don't have warm weather in the summer for very long, and the summers are short up here in northern Minnesota. So come up and enjoy it, and keep your eyes on the weather. Keep your eyes on the social media page for the Forest Service and Cook County Sheriff's Department. But there's plenty of time to adjust if something goes wrong.
I know you said the closest fire is 18 miles away, but do you have an evacuation plan for yourself and guests if things start to get a little closer?
Yeah, of course. We work with the local fire department, the sheriff's department, to make sure that we're totally safe and we manage an evacuation if it does come. Again, they're very cautious. They give lots of warning before any evacuations come, so days in advance whether you're looking at an evacuation or not.
Okay, John Fredrickson with the Gunflint Lodge. I so appreciate you joining us. Please stay safe up there.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, but we have more after this break. Stay right there. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on Fox 9 all day. Well, the biggest story across the region this week is the extreme heat warning. So it is 90 degrees right now in the Minneapolis Twin Cities metro. Certainly feels a lot hotter than that, as that extreme heat warning is in effect until Thursday at 9 p.m. With this extreme heat has come the wildfire risk in northern Minnesota, so they've closed the boundary waters due to multiple fires burning up north. It also comes with a lot of beach closures because, as we know, with the hot weather, usually that comes with E. coli outbreaks. Bad timing because everybody's trying to cool off and hit the beach. But it kind of just comes with the territory when we're dealing with this kind of weather. In national news, a big announcement from one of the social media companies. I'm going to bring in my producer, Kara Savage, on this one because Instagram and Meta AI is saying that if you have a public account now on Instagram, they can use your images to create AI images.
So they started an AI feature that allowed users to generate images using public Instagram accounts, so they could use public Instagram account pictures on someone's account to generate images. But 2 days ago, they actually discontinued this feature. So this feature was something that people were feeling. I saw it all over my Instagram. It was kind of like how you can turn this off. You can go into settings. You can make it so that people can't use your images, but Meta updated it and they've discontinued this feature.
Okay, so it's no longer
in effect.
Well, this is all. I immediately, when you told me about this, Kara, I immediately thought about my children and the issues around posting photos of your children to the internet. It's a discussion my husband and I have had several times. You know, I have a public Instagram account. Anyone out there is welcome to follow me, Courtney M. Godfrey on Instagram.
Subtle plug.
Subtle plug. And I love to share my story, but it is, it's exactly why a lot of parents are choosing not to share their kids' faces. And I really struggle with this. Like, a lot of times I'll share their faces on stories, but I tend to not share very much on, on the permanent spaces. But I don't know. And then you see some celebrities who don't show their kids at all. Some celebrities show their kids all the time, and I don't know. That was the one thing that came up for me when you mentioned this.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people who used to previously show their kids on Instagram or social media. They don't anymore, and I completely respect that. I don't have kids, so I don't understand everything as much. But
I know,
but it's hard because like you said, you want to share your life. You want to share more of if you want to share the more private side of your life, so people can connect with you. Outside of, but.
And my kids are cute. Like, I want people to see how cute my kids are.
Yeah.
But you also just struggle with that. That really concerns me. I'm glad they took it down, but goodness knows the internet already knows everything about us, Kara. So
I know, and
does it matter? I don't know.
And it's like when you put a picture on Instagram, whether it's public or private or whatever, like, people can screenshot that and do whatever they want with it. So it's kind of
true. Do you know what my kids love, Kara? When I go into ChatGPT and I upload a photo, like, I'll upload a photo of my kid fishing and say, turn this into him catching a shark.
Right. Yes.
They love it. Or, like,
of course,
turn this photo into her riding a unicorn. It is the greatest thing ever. They love it. So there are some moments of levity and good when it comes to image generation and artificial intelligence. Highly recommend that trick when you're trying to buy some time on a road trip or something.
Impress your kids a little bit.
Yeah, totally. There is a limit unless you're willing to pay for the upgrade on ChatGPT, though. So I think it's like a 5-image limit. So it's like, that only bought me 5 minutes. Interesting stuff. Okay, we are watching for this press conference. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster is holding a press conference today. It was scheduled to start at 3 o'clock. It is now 3 o'clock on the dot, and we're not seeing him yet. But these individuals have been standing up, lined up behind the podium for at least the last 5 minutes. So it appears that we are getting close. This press conference is to announce an appointment to temporarily fill the U.S. Senate seat left vacant by the sudden and unexpected death of Senator Lindsey Graham that occurred over the weekend. There is supposed to be a tribute to Graham's life and public service announced at this event today, as well as, like I mentioned, the governor's selection of an interim U.S. senator to serve until the end of Graham's term, which ends in January. Should we move on to something else? Should we go to a break as we wait for this? So President Trump has publicly urged Governor McMaster, just so that people understand this, he's urged Governor McMaster to appoint Graham's sister, Darlene Graham Norden, though the governor has not announced his decision yet. A special election process is already underway to choose a long-term successor. So again, we're just waiting on the governor in South Carolina there, and looks like someone is taking the podium. Let's dip in now to see if they are in fact going to introduce the governor. Nope, she faked us out, Kara. She was taking the podium probably just to do a mic check. Let's take a quick break. I bet when we come back, we're just going to take a quick 2-minute break, and I bet when we come back, we will have the governor at the podium and we'll be able to take this press conference. Stay right there. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on Fox 9 All Day. We are still awaiting a press conference with South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster. He is going to appoint a temporary person to fill this U.S. Senate seat left vacant by the recent death of Senator Lindsey Graham. This press conference was supposed to start at 3 o'clock. When it begins, we will take you there live immediately. But back here locally, we've been covering an extreme heat warning. There is the governor. So again, this is South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster about the appointment of an interim senator with Lindsey Graham's passing. Let's take a listen.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. This is an important day in South Carolina history. There'll be other celebrations and events of all kinds. But I and the family thank all of you for coming here today. We meet in sadness over the loss of one of South Carolina's greatest sons. do we also gather together to celebrate what this self-described poor boy from a small town, rural town in South Carolina accomplished through grit, determination, and character for his state, for his country, and for his world. Lindsey Graham recognized the greatness of America and her obligations to a dangerous world. Lindsey Graham recognized the seriousness of his work, but also the value of humor and a light-hearted spirit. Lindsey Graham understood the hopes, dreams, and needs of his state and delivered for his state every time. Presidents, paupers, famous or forgotten, he treated us all the same. We have seen him attack evil and injustice and embrace friendship and the common good with equal fervor and strength. Yes, we are going to miss Lindsey, but we will always remember his quickness, his laugh, and what he has done for us and the world. As he described himself, this poor boy from a little town in South Carolina. Today, under the law, it's my duty and honor to name someone to serve in the place of this irresistible man, this irreplaceable man, this extraordinary man for the remainder of his term. Lindsey took care of his little sister in years long departed. It's my honor to ask his little sister, Darlene Graham, to finish his work for him now. And by the way, Darlene, I don't know if I told you, but after we spoke on the phone in the wee hours of Sunday morning, and you agreed to serve through tears, earlier, I had wondered what you would say, and I was humbled by your quickness to see the duty that you had to serve. And I called the president afterwards, and he thought it was a great idea. And I'm sure that everyone here does as well. Darlene, little sister, come forward, please.
Thank you, Governor, and just bear with me as I try to get through this. But first, I just want to say one thing I've never heard Lindsey described as is irresistible. So, okay, we'll just start with that. But first, I would like to thank everyone who has called and reached out over the past couple of days. I can't tell you how much it's meant to me and our family. I know Lindsey was loved and respected by many, and I greatly appreciate the memories and even the funny stories that have been shared. These shared experiences, along with our faith, have gotten us through these past 2 very difficult days. Next, I want to thank the governor for selecting me to serve the remainder of Lindsey's term. It is such an honor. Lindsey has always been there for me, and now I will be there for him. My brother was the most amazing person, outstanding leader, and just a genuinely good man. He was kind and considerate and loved by his family dearly. As I think everyone would agree, Lindsey worked harder than anyone. He worked nonstop to make our state, country, and world better. He loved his family and loved serving this state and our country. He dedicated his life to our country. It is such a privilege to get to finish some of his important work, and I promise to work hard over the next several months to support the President and carry forward the efforts of my brother on behalf of the citizens of South Carolina and the United States. I know Lindsey thought the world of his staff and colleagues, and with their support, I feel confident. I think this is what Lindsey would have wanted, and I plan to honor him in this way. Now to Lindsey, I miss you more than I can even put into words. But I'm going to do this. I got it. Thank you.
That concludes this ceremony. Thank you.
All right, you were just listening in to a press conference with the South Carolina governor announcing who will temporarily replace the late Senator Lindsey Graham. Graham passed away unexpectedly over the weekend, and the governor there, Governor McMaster, announcing that he was going to place Darlene Graham Norden to temporarily fill that Senate seat. That is Lindsey Graham's sister, his younger sister, who she has described their relationship in interviews many a times as a sibling relationship, a mother-father relationship. Graham, of course, took care of Darlene, much like a parent would when they were growing up, as both their parents died when she was only about 13 years old. She does work for the state of South Carolina right now, and she was the individual who President Trump recommended as his temporary replacement. So she will fill that seat left vacant by her brother's death, Senator Lindsey Graham, and then there will be a special election. So his term is up in January. She will serve until January, and then they'll have a special election to fill that seat. All right, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will have more news and weather. Stay right there. Welcome back. Well, teens who use cannabis may face a substantially greater risk of developing serious mental health conditions, including psychotic and bipolar disorders. Wow, this all according to a new study that was released recently. Here to talk about it is Dr. Madeline Gagnon. She's the founder of Pulse Mentoring, a family mediator, a pediatrician. Maddie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
This is pretty stunning research when we look at it. Tell me what it says.
That's right. The data here is really consistent, really robust, and quite frankly, alarming. And that's that teen cannabis use is linked to serious mental health increases. So just as you said, twice as likely compared to a non-user to develop psychotic or bipolar disorders. We're also seeing increased risk for depression and unfortunately suicidality in partnership with that.
I mean, did you see this coming? I mean, obviously as a pediatrician, you know, marijuana use has always concerned you, but did you realize the connection to mental illness was so serious before this study came out?
You know, the studies before this have all been on adult users, and pediatric studies and trials are challenging. This is a retrospective study, so looking backwards on nearly 500,000 children and adolescents and their use. And the link there is quite alarming and in some ways, yes, surprising. When you look though at the kind of pathophysiology of it, the way that this is impacting the brain isn't surprising. So as I've said many times before, the teen brain is under construction. It does not reach maturity till early to the mid-20s. So specifically the endocannabinoid system, or the signaling pathway in your brain that creates homeostasis or keeps things kind of a balanced harmony, sleep, mood, memory, learning, appetite. When that's exposed to cannabis, it's disruptive in the maturation or the growing of that signaling.
So researchers found that cannabis use often preceded these diagnoses by nearly 2 years. What does that tell you about the long-term impacts of cannabis?
That's right. Even if they stopped using in late adolescence, we were still seeing the increased risk of adult onset of mental illness. So, certainly we're advocating for parents to be educated, to educate their teens. It's never too late to stop the use of cannabis, specifically in those adolescent teen brain developing years, but there's certain aspects of this damage may not be able to be reversed.
What about the potency? I mean, the potency of cannabis has gotten so much stronger over the years. Average THC levels in California cannabis flower now exceed 20%, considerably higher than in past decades. Do you think kids know what they're smoking?
No, I think, with the increasing legality and kind of social common use of cannabis, it can be really confusing for parents and teens alike. But you're exactly right. Key risk factors for these episodes and pathways into serious mental illness is related to early initiation, so use of cannabis prior to the years of 15 years old, daily use, and higher potency THCs.
What about the marketing? I mean, we see today, especially with like the beverages and the candies, they're colorful, they have fun names. Should something be done about the marketing and how it's appealing to young people?
Perhaps kind of now when we look back on the tobacco industry, there's more we know now as consumers and parents. I think the same is to be said around cannabis use. This is the first study of its kind. It's important that parents understand the data, both for their use and their teens' use. The strongest predictive factor of teen use of cannabis is parental use.
I was going to ask you about that. How do you suggest parents talk to kids about it when so many parents themselves are drinking these THC beverages, or, they might smoke once in a while? How do you suggest a parent talks to a teen about it when that teen probably knows they themselves are participating?
That's right. Like I've always said, open communication is key. Just because you can talk about something doesn't mean you're condoning it, doesn't mean you support it. But there has to be no topic that's off limit to talk about. Whether you want to disclose your own use or not as a parent is your own individual choice, and your kid best and your parental dynamics best with your co-parent. But it's really important to keep it about the teen use, because again, teen use and cognitive or brain impairment or hindrance to the developing brain is different than adult use. When you look at cannabis use disorder, so folks who are dependent and have difficulty controlling their use, the median age is 22. So really thinking about how parents want to talk about it in terms of what they want for their teen, and empowering their teen with that knowledge that this isn't just benign use, that there is an increased risk of long-term issues, and having psychosis or schizophrenia and bipolar and depression leading to suicidality. These are big health conditions that carry long-term impact.
I just picture sitting at the dining room table and the kids across the table from you saying, well, you do it, so why can't I?
I think of my grandparents and my own parents around, again, tobacco use in the 50s and 60s, and what we know now today related to lung health and what have you. So kind of, I do predict that there'll be kind of an evolution of learning, but I think keeping it about your teen and whether you want to acknowledge your use or not in that conversation, there's certainly pros and cons to that, but it does come down to open communication, authoritative parenting, where you're really setting out your expectations, holding teens accountable, and ensuring they have good information. All too often, teens, come into our office not even fully understanding that this is beyond just something recreational or fun that they're doing with their friends, fully unaware. So really empowering teens with knowledge.
Is there a difference, health impact-wise, between smoking it or ingesting it?
Certainly with smoking it, you're going to get basic lung inhalant exposures to various chemicals and particles that can be agitating to the lung pathology. That's notwithstanding no different than tobacco use, for example. Edibles or beverages that can be drank, certainly in terms of cannabinoid or THC exposure, that's going to be absorbed into your bloodstream and exposed to your brain, no matter how the route is. I think, smoking it, there would be an increased risk around lung health.
Many earlier studies focused primarily on heavy cannabis use, or what you have called cannabis use disorder. This study took a broader approach, examining any self-reported cannabis use within the past year. So does the amount and frequency matter when we talk about long-term impact?
The study looked at had you used it at all in the last year, and they still saw these similar correlations around increased risk for mental illness. So I think, certainly increased use, weekly to daily use, is an increased risk factor. But if you're not a daily user or you're not a weekly user, risk still remains. And I think that's the important takeaway, is that there is risk. There's just additional risk with more frequent use.
So interesting. I mean, what's your best piece of advice for parents battling this? Because it's everywhere. It's legal recreationally, obviously not for teenagers, but what's your best piece of advice for parents to address this topic with their kids?
Knowledge is power. Just even reflecting myself as a mother and a pediatrician on this topic, I was shocked by the stats of 20 to 30% of routine recreational cannabis users become cannabis, dependent. 2/3 of those who are dependent are also dependent on alcohol and nicotine, and this is for our adolescent youth. So, the numbers are surprising, and so I think parents, one, need to educate themselves, or what are the reality and the impact of these choices for their teens, ensuring their teens understand that, because I think even just having the proper knowledge will give you and your teen a second thought on, how am I using this substance? And again, keeping open communication. More times than not, parents, twofold. They underestimate their influence. My teen's not listening. This is my third kid. They know the drill. That's not allowed in our house. Versus really recognizing the value of talking about things. And talking about things does not mean you're permissive of them. It means you want to know that, you're up to speed, you're current, and you want them to have the same knowledge.
I mean, this study was pretty stunning. I mean, the fact that they are linking cannabis use to, bipolar disorder, mental health. How common is it that you are actually seeing teens with bipolar disorder in your office? And do you feel like there has been a rise?
I do feel like there's been a rise. Now, some would argue, is it causal? Is it a self-medication? Are they struggling with elements of bipolar 1 or 2 and then self-medicating? The study would show that it's beyond self-medication, that there is a causal relationship. I would also say, that these are topics that we're just more widely addressing in current public health and pediatric health, and so the discussion is more prominent around that. And we had initially, in decades ago, not felt that cannabis could be addictive or, was a more benign substance. And really, we're seeing now over the years that it can lead to more impact, both cognitively and in relationship with other substances.
And it certainly has become more socially and recreationally acceptable in our society. So an interesting conversation, because it is still obviously very dangerous for the developing brain.
Yes, absolutely.
Dr. Madeline Gagnon, you can find Pulse Teen Mentoring online and on social media. We always appreciate you coming in every Monday.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to a quick break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Hope you caught that conversation with Dr. Maddie Gagnon. Super interesting stuff with this new research out about teen marijuana use. Let's jump into some headlines, shall we? Because we have a severe heat warning in effect through Thursday at 9 p.m., which means it is going to be hot, hot, hot all week. We are going to get Chief Meteorologist Ian Leonard in to talk all about it in just about 30 minutes, so stay right there for that. But that also means that this is fueling the wildfires up north. So wildfires continue to burn up in northern Minnesota, and that is resulting in the U.S. Forest Service deciding to close the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness. Governor Tim Walz has also declared a peacetime emergency and activated the National Guard as firefighters are battling multiple blazes up there in that region, and this hot, dry weather just is not helping. And like we talked to the owner of the Gunflint Lodge, there are still businesses open in that area, but if you are going to go to the area, just make sure you check to make sure what is open. And as another round of dangerous heat enters our region, we do need to remind you to check before heading to the beach. Health officials are very much wanting to get the word out that you need to check the city and county websites because several metro area beaches have temporarily closed because of elevated E. coli levels. This is very common when it gets really hot and when we've had plenty of rainfall. So health officials say that this is likely caused by recent rainfall washing bacteria into area lakes. No illnesses have been reported, but swimmers should look for the latest information on water quality before heading to the beach. And a large fire has heavily damaged a Rosemount church this morning, sending thick black smoke into the sky and drawing firefighters from multiple agencies. Crews responded just before 11 a.m. to an Ethiopian Orthodox church, formerly the Lighthouse Church. Authorities believe the building was unoccupied and no injuries were reported. There's an aerial view of it. Massive damage there. The cause of that fire is under investigation, but as you can see, pretty devastating damage done to that church there in Rosemount. And police are asking for the public's help as they search for the driver who opened fire during an apparent road rage incident on Interstate 35E in Eagan over the weekend. Investigators say multiple shots were fired at another vehicle Saturday evening, damaging it but causing no injuries. They are now looking for a white Ford F-150 and urge anyone with information to contact the Eagan police. And just a short while ago, authorities in Wabasha, Minnesota, have identified 2 of 3 people who were killed in a boating accident over the weekend at Lake Pepin as Wabasha firefighters. So 3 people were killed after a pontoon boat was involved in an accident and overturned on Lake Pepin near Deer Island on the Minnesota-Wisconsin border. 3 other boaters were rescued after clinging to the overturned vessel. Authorities say the pontoon collided with a commercial barge before capsizing. All right, let's bring in Kara Savage, my wonderful producer. Kara, switching gears to some lighthearted news here.
Yes.
Did you see this fight that broke out at the
haven't seen the video
concert?
yet because I wanted to see it for the first time.
Okay, well, we have quite the surprise for you then. This is a treat. This is a treat.
Yes,
a fight broke out between fans attending Hillary Duff's The Lucky Me Tour at the Kia Forum Arena in Inglewood, California this past Thursday. You can see a fan appears to be getting her hair yanked by another person in a black outfit as security tries to pull them apart. Now, it's not clear what led to the nasty fight, and you can see bystanders are pretty shook by it. They can't seem to defuse the ordeal, but I don't think, Kara, this is what Hillary Duff meant when she said, take a crazy chance.
No, I don't. I mean, I have so many questions.
Well, also, I mean, like, did this happen during the concert?
Right.
It does look like, you can't see Hillary Duff in the frame, but it does look like there are musicians on stage at the time. So maybe it happened during a song transition. I don't know.
I mean, people don't mess around at their concerts. Maybe someone was obstructing a view and they got a little too heated.
Let
Not
me
that this
tell
should
you
ever
what.
happen, obviously, but I
Let
mean,
me tell you what definitely played a role, Kara. Alcohol.
right? Alcohol, maybe some expensive tickets, so people weren't messing around.
Yeah, somebody was blocking somebody's view. They paid $200 for a ticket. They weren't having it.
I mean, they were on the floor. They could have paid way more than $200.
This is something. Well, that's true. Are Hillary Duff tickets going for more than $200?
I don't know.
But that's the era we're living in, I guess.
That is the era we're living in.
What I didn't expect in my Monday bingo card was a fight at a Hillary Duff concert. Like, I could see this happening at a Korn concert. Is Korn still on tour? I don't even know. Are they a band still? I don't know. Limp Bizkit.
Sure, right. But this doesn't, the people going to a Hillary Duff concert don't really, I mean.
I'm like taking my daughter to a
The
Hillary
girls
Duff
aren't
concert,
messing around.
you know?
I mean, I feel like it's mostly like late Gen Z and millennials that are going to Hillary Duff concerts because it's like the nostalgia factor.
It's true.
But
they were big Lizzie McGuire fans.
Yeah, were you? Was that your time?
It was my time. It was maybe a little younger than me.
Okay. It was like a little too old for me.
Right. Yes. You are very young. I am very old. Thanks for the reminder.
Sorry.
No.
Yes. Okay, floor tickets to Hillary Duff at the Mystic Lake Amphitheater in a few weeks are going for $386 per ticket.
Who is paying
That is
$386 to go to Hillary Duff? I can think of so many other ways to spend that money. I mean,
Yeah,
so many
you want to be
ways.
on the floor. There you go. That's your price. If you want to be in the second row on the floor, that's going to cost you $695.
Wait, are there on the floor though? Are there seats? Like you can be in there's rows?
Yeah, there's seats. And it's not like it's like general admission. It's seats.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you want to be like in the lawn, let's say, I'm just $120 to sit
For
in
the lawn?
For Hillary Duff. Yes.
Forget it.
And it's no shade to Hillary Duff. It's just $120 to sit in the lawn.
Maybe because she hasn't toured in like 10
Yes.
years, people want to see her, but like I can't honestly off the top of my head can't tell you a song.
I know that this is what dreams are. You know?
Good one.
That's the
a
only
good
one I know. But she came out with her album.
I'm not
That
paying
was
$380 to see one song that I can sing along
Right.
to.
I mean, her whole thing this year was that she came out with this album. So I think it's kind of a nostalgia factor.
Do you know what, too? At this, I don't know if I have put this in my notes here, but I read that I don't know if it was this show. She did 2 shows in LA. It was like Wednesday and Thursday. So, and the fight was on Thursday. But at least one of those shows, all of her mom friends were there. Like Demi Lovato was there. A few other people. Mandy Moore, I think, was there. You know who wasn't there? Ashley Tisdale.
I was gonna say.
Definitely not there.
Definitely not there.
You
See,
can't.
I'm such an Ashley Tisdale fan.
Oh,
so-
you're even after the article?
Well, I don't really. I didn't.
So
no,
Ashley
no.
Tisdale wrote a magazine piece about how she was in a mean mom group, and everybody put together that it was this mom group with Hillary Duff.
I mean, I feel like there was no need for that article.
Yeah,
Like,
there was
That
no
could have been a text message to them being like, hey, I don't really want to be friends anymore.
Yeah. Instead of going to the media.
Yeah, right.
So she
but
was
I
not,
do love
she
Ashley
was not in the
Tisdale.
stands. She was not in the stands
Maybe
that
not,
night.
yeah.
But her other mom friends were. So
Yes.
and it wasn't them who were involved in the cat fight. I just want to be clear.
It could have been. No, just kidding. It's not. It was not.
It wasn't.
It was not.
Okay, what do we have on deck here? Perfect. Yeah, well, pull up Karen. We are going to take a quick break, but we have Karen Harrison with the DNR coming on. She is in their wildfire division, and she's going to talk to us all about these wildfires that continue to burn up in northern Minnesota. We're going to take a quick break, get her interview all set up, and then we'll have a chat with her. So stay right there. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on Fox 9 all day. Well, the U.S. Forest Service is temporarily closing the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness as concern grows over the multiple wildfires burning in the region. And of course, that hot, dry weather that is hitting this week. Karen Harrison is the statewide wildfire prevention specialist for the DNR, and she joins us now. Karen, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
So what is the current status of the many wildfires burning in the Boundary Waters Canoe area right now?
In the Boundary Waters area canoe wilderness, right now they have 3 wildfires burning. There's a total of 16 wildfires throughout that northern kind of area from Koochiching over to Lake County. So an additional 13 outside of what's in the Boundary Waters.
So how common is this? I mean, when was the last time that they had to close the entire Boundary Waters?
The last time that occurred was in 2021. And I believe this is the 3rd time it's been done. So it is definitely not a regular occurrence.
Why do they have to completely close it?
So number one, always when we're talking about wildfire, is safety for our firefighters and the public. And so when we have these extreme fire weather conditions and we have active wildfires, and not just one, but multiple wildfires, you know, we need to really consider public safety as well as those of us who are working, you know, in managing these fires. So I don't work with the Superior National Forest, so I'm not sure of all of the decisions that go into something like that, but I know it's not done lightly.
Okay. I have to imagine that there are people camping in there right now or were camping in there. Are there any evacuation plans? I know that in 2021, rangers used canoes and float planes to notify campers. Is anything like that happening this time around?
The Superior National Forest, I know that they're working to communicate with people that are in the Boundary Waters. I don't have specifics on that just because I'm not with the Superior National Forest, but I know they are doing due diligence to get in there similarly to make sure that everyone knows and understands.
On a call earlier today, they said that they have well over 100 people working to fight these fires on the ground, in the air, in support positions. What does the fight look like?
Yeah, so it varies. There's also a Minix Type 3 incident management team that is managing 10 of the 16 wildfires. And then the Superior National Forest has been working on the other 6. So there are a lot of staff, a lot of crews here working to manage and get in there. Most of these wildfires are really remote. They're not easily accessible. And so number one, it's getting in and getting access. Also thinking though about that safety aspect for our crews. And then it's, you know, active suppression. The goal is 100% suppression tactics. In the Boundary Waters, that does look different because they try to have minimal impact on the environment. In the 10 fires that the incident management team is working on, they're doing a lot with dozers, creating fire breaks around the perimeters of these fires, putting hose lay in so that they can actively work to suppress these fires, keep those fire breaks damp, and soak any hot spots that they find.
And it sounds like some of these fires, they will just let burn. In a call earlier today, they said something about some of these fires, they'll just have to wait until the snow falls.
You know, sometimes when you have large wildfires like this that are very inaccessible to crews, again, thinking about what resources you have, the safety aspect of getting in there and being able to suppress, those all go into those kind of decisions. When it's safe to, you know, allow fire on the landscape, it can have benefits to the natural landscape. We know fire has been a natural part of the environment. And so I know that the Superior National Forest doesn't take that lightly either. And they think a lot about these decisions before allowing, you know, or deciding their tactics. But sometimes, yes, I think we know that until there is significant precipitation, that these fires might not, get a lot of leeway without active suppression work on top of it.
Yeah, it is really interesting because fire is a natural thing. It's Mother Nature's way. So how much is the hot weather this week and the hot weather that we have seen, last week and previously playing into this?
Yeah, I think it's very unusual to have red flag warnings in July. So these very high temperatures, the humidity here has been dropping in the afternoons down to 20 to 30%. That, along with these really strong gusty winds in the afternoon, lead to, increase in fire behavior. And so, again, talking about all of the fires as a whole is tricky because it also is impacted by what type of fuels are on the ground, where it is located, and how those weather impacts impact that fire specifically. But when we're seeing such high fire danger and concerns with weather, it's definitely a concern. And I would urge everyone to use extra caution when we're under red flag conditions or we have burning restrictions in place. We want to make sure that our resources are out there working on these fires that are already there. The public can help by not starting any additional wildfires.
When I look at the website now, it looks like the Chubb fire is the largest by size, but what are your priority fires right now as far as firefighting goes?
So with the incident management teams, 10 fires, the Chubb fire and the Echo 2 fire are priority fires. We're looking at, in terms of priority, we're talking mostly about protecting people, property, and infrastructure. And so looking at those fires, the direction they are, the location they are, and what things are surrounding them puts those into priority, as well as the kind of fire activity that we're seeing on those. So some of the fires aren't moving very much. They're kind of smoldering, staying pretty small, and just being monitored by air right now. Other ones, we're definitely doing what we can to make sure that we're in there and doing as much suppression as we can.
And what about people who had campsite reservations? Are you making an effort to contact them? Will they be, what's the move right now for people who were planning to come into the area this week?
I know the Superior National Forest is contacting people that were in the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness. That question could be answered better by them because I don't know all of those specifics. The Department of Natural Resources has notified people that are in state parks, that have campsites at state forests, just to ensure that they know also about the burning restrictions that are in place right now.
Yeah. What caused these fires?
So there was a storm that came through earlier this month. It did not provide a lot of precipitation, but what it did bring was a lot of lightning. So almost all of these wildfires have been confirmed lightning strikes. There are a few that are still undetermined, and those are actively being, sorted out.
Okay. Karen Harrison, the statewide wildfire prevention specialist for the Minnesota DNR. I appreciate you joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks to Karen for chiming in there. Again, wildfires continue to burn across northern Minnesota, and they have announced the closure of the BWCAW as Governor Tim Walz has also declared a peacetime emergency and activated the National Guard to help. We are going to take a quick break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Well, we do have an extreme heat warning in place right now across the Twin Cities region, and we are also following several fires that are burning up in northern Minnesota, a few in the Boundary Waters canoe area that has resulted in the temporary closure of the canoe area. We did just get notice from the U.S. Forest Service that the Camp Fire, which is the largest fire that they are trying to contain right now, has picked up in activity and has jumped its containment lines. And because this fire is located 8 miles northeast of the Cloquet line near Ely, they are telling people near there that they need to be ready to evacuate. So people who are near that Cloquet Ely area need to be ready to evacuate because the Camp Fire has picked up in activity and has jumped its containment lines. All this while we deal with extreme heat across the region. All right. Switching gears here, Senator Lindsey Graham died this past weekend after what was his office called a sudden and brief illness. We now know what killed the senator was an aortic dissection. That, according to the Washington, D.C. Medical Examiner's Office. Joining us now to talk about what this condition is Dr. Kevin Harris of Allina Health. Dr. Harris, thanks for joining me.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, so what is this and how is it different from a heart attack?
Yeah, so an aortic dissection is a tear in the largest artery that comes out of the heart. So the aorta supplies blood to the entire body, and it's a large vessel, comes out of the heart and then travels through your chest and then into your abdomen and supplies every blood vessel. So an aortic dissection is a tear. The aortic wall has 3 layers, and a dissection occurs when there's a tear in the wall and then the blood rushes between these 2 layers or between the 3 layers and can lead to a number of different symptoms and problems. So it is a true emergency. A heart attack on the other side, on the other hand, is a blockage of one of the heart vessels. So it's actually, people can share some of the same risk factors such as high blood pressure and tobacco. Those things are in common. It tends to happen in older people, but otherwise the pathophysiology, the reasons people develop these are different.
So I read that aortic dissection kills 40% of sufferers instantly and 90% within the first month if not treated. Can you talk to me about the survival rate of this condition?
Yeah, so traditionally, it has always been felt that the survival is, or the death rate is 1% per hour. So it's very important if somebody develops this condition that they seek immediate medical attention. So the patients that are at risk would be people that have aortic aneurysms or dilation of their ascending aorta, people with prior known to have valve problems, people with a history of aortic problems in their family, conditions such as Marfan syndrome and other connective tissue diseases, and even prior procedures like a coronary angiogram where there's a catheter in the heart. All of those conditions can predispose. So when I meet with patients that have any of those things, I always say, well, these are the warning signs. If you develop severe chest or back pain, you want to get into the emergency room as soon as possible.
Can it be cured with surgery? I mean, and how quickly do you have to get in there?
Yeah, right. And so when I said traditionally the death risk was 1% per hour, that was before we have the current, kind of surgical procedure. So if it involves the first part of the aorta, which is the ascending aorta in your chest, we recognize that with a CT scan. Usually it's a CT that makes the diagnosis. You can't see it usually on an EKG at all. You may get a hint on a chest x-ray. So it's very important for patients to have those tests done, and then there's a cardiac surgeon that does the surgery. They open the chest and replace the diseased part of the aorta that's adjacent to the heart.
When we talk about Senator Lindsey Graham, he appeared to be quite healthy. He didn't appear to have any health conditions, and they said it was sudden and due to a brief illness. Can you talk to me about that? Because it doesn't seem like in this case there was any warning signs, and is that common with this condition?
Yeah, no, that's actually the rule. So whenever I talk to a patient that has undergone this emergency, they're in good health right up until this happens, and then they develop severe generally severe pain, chest, back, could be in the neck, could be in the abdomen, but there's not going to be any warning necessarily that this is coming.
He had been traveling. Can airplane pressure or stress play a role in this?
Well, stress as far as, he was probably sleep deprived and such. Of course, we're not involved in his care, but those would not be, like air travel would not be a risk for that. We think of other things like blood clots with air travel, but I wouldn't think that that's it. It just was probably somewhat coincidental unless he was under, severe stress or, didn't have his blood pressure meds. If he was on a blood pressure med, we don't even know that. But again, high blood pressure is actually an important risk factor as well.
Is this ever mistaken for cardiac arrest, and is there a danger with mistaking this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's often, so a heart attack is about 50 times more common. So when somebody walks in the emergency room with chest pain, the ER doctors are always going to think about heart attack number one. But this is, if and I always, when I talk to the emergency room doctors, I'm like, if things aren't adding up, the EKG is normal, the blood tests are normal, you got to be thinking about this condition, especially in those patients that I mentioned with those risk factors.
How often are you seeing this?
Well, I would say, so the incidence, which it's hard to know what to make of that, is like 4 per 100,000 people per year. So I think of it as, like at Abbott Northwestern, I see a lot of the patients that suffer this at Abbott. We might get 20 a year, but we get hundreds, like 800 heart attacks a year.
Wow. So while this seemed to happen quickly and without time to help, there is a situation where you can diagnose it and
yeah,
fix
absolutely. So those patients that have any of those conditions I mentioned, very important. If they develop concerning symptoms, get into the emergency right away, and then also advocate. If they know they have a condition, sometimes people don't know that they're at risk. And that it's discovered in the emergency room with a CAT scan.
When you have someone high profile like this die of something, does that increase awareness about a disease? I mean, is there some good that could come from this as far as detection and awareness?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think just the fact that we're having this conversation and maybe somebody is aware, like, hey, somebody in their family had a aortic problem, get checked out. Ask your doctor. There's there's tests that we can do to say the person's at risk from it. The other. The probably other celebrity that had this is John Ritter, of course, and his wife has really made it her mission to spread awareness of this and make sure emergency room doctors are aware of it. But I think for the public, I think it's good to raise awareness from something bad that has happened.
Yeah, it's just wild how quickly it happened. That is the crazy thing about this. When you see the news, he seemed perfectly healthy, and there was no time to even get him to a doctor. So.
Yeah, and that happens, unfortunately, some of the time. I mean, of course, we just see the people that are fortunate enough to get there in time.
Yeah, Dr. Kevin Harris with Allina Health. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right, that was Dr. Kevin Harris with Allina Health talking about aortic dissection, which is what the medical examiner now says the late Senator Lindsey Graham suffered from. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on Fox 9 all day. Because we have an extreme heat warning in effect through Thursday at 9 p.m., we bring in Chief Meteorologist Ian Leonard. It is hot, hot, hot out there.
Yeah, Buster Poindexter, hot, hot, hot. That's 2 points in my music trivia.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think most people, look, when you say the words extreme heat warning, a lot of people say, oh, who's he, what's he? Because it's kind of new from where we were years and years ago, right? There were heat warnings and heat advisories and heat watches. An extreme heat warning is something entirely different. It's a much bigger, more ferocious animal, if you will. When it comes to an extreme heat warning, so look, people who work outside, and we probably think a lot about those people. You're driving by, building homes, mowing lawns, fixing the roads, so many things.
So many jobs.
And you look at those people, you look at people who work outside and you're like, oh my God, that'd be brutal. It is. But for the average person, you or me, not working outside, say we decide that we're outside and we're doing a little gardening, fixing our marigolds and our begonias and our petunias, and we're just doing something small. Then we sit in the shade. And then we do a little bit more, and then we sit in the shade. Cumulative time outside, 4 hours. We've been drinking, we've been hydrated, we have a hat, all of those things we tell people. An extreme heat warning is about the linear cumulative effect of the heat on you, on your core temperature. And some people say, oh, I'm hot, I'm gonna go inside, and they cool down for a bit. And they feel good, but then they come outside. If you don't have the ability to cool down, to reset your core temperature, it is going to slowly creep up. Most folks would call that, back in the old days, your mom would say, if you don't be careful, you're going to get heat stroke. That's exactly what it is. Once your core temperature on this linear effect keeps going up and reaches a certain point, it's almost impossible to cool down. Here's the thing. It's nighttime. I'll open the windows. I'll cool down the house. My overnight low is almost the same as our average daytime high for this time of year. So with the heat warning, there is no, I guess what I'm trying to say, there's no reset point. There's no cool down overnight. And I think for us, we have air conditioning.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up with air conditioning. The first home I ever owned as an adult, I didn't have air conditioning.
And still there are plenty of people today who do
there
not
are so many people here, just in the metro in Minnesota, in the upper Midwest, who don't have air conditioning for one reason or another. So think about how hot it is in your car when you first get in your car. And you open up the windows and you drive, and it's just blowing around hot air. That's what it's like for people who are trying to cool down at night. An extreme warning is so very dangerous. The very young, the very old. I put something online yesterday about temperature. The temperature difference from the shade and the soil in the shade, the air in the shade, and the temperature difference on asphalt. So in the shade, it was the soil was about 76 degrees. You'd lay down in the shade and it felt better. On my driveway, it was 127 degrees.
Wow.
And what I tell people is there's nothing that makes me more crazy than when I'm driving on a day like today and I see somebody walking a dog. I'm like, I know your dog needs a walk. I get it. Don't email me. I know the dogs need a walk. I have a dog. But your dog can literally burn their paws. So what I tell people is you take your hand just like this and take the back of your hand and put it down on the asphalt. And if you go, ooh, ow, that's hot. It's too hot for anybody to walk on. Or take off your shoes. Try and walk to the end of the driveway and back. And think about that's what you're asking your dog to do.
Yeah.
And your dog is programmed to go for a walk. It's just, it's cruelty beyond measure.
Yeah. My husband, the lights just came on in here.
Hello.
My husband was putting together a basketball hoop for the kids yesterday in the heat. And I said, we're going to go to the beach and cool off.
Yeah.
He did give up eventually and left it half done because it was so hot. He needed a break. He needed to jump in the cool water.
And people email me all the time, and I appreciate it. Thank you. It is summer.
Yeah, like
it's
life
supposed
has
to
go,
be hot.
We get it. Life has to go on. Yeah.
But there are also people who face hardships, and those are the people we're not talking about. Somebody who has a home near the beach or a house with 2 air conditioners, or have the ability to stay cool, or have the ability to take care of others. That's awesome. We're actually talking about the people who can't.
And it's a good reminder to check on your neighbors and your friends who are maybe a little older, they live alone, whatever the situation may be. Check in on them because you never know how they're doing. Just, hey, I know it's hot out. Do you need anything?
We're not going to break any records, by the way.
It's fascinating. And I think I read too that, was it 2023, the last time that we had like a 5-day stretch of extreme heat?
Yeah. Those weren't even records.
Okay.
So the bulk of the temperature records for at least the cities was set during a very warm July in 1936. That's the date, July 14th, 1936. I believe I've got that right. A lot of numbers going on in my head. 108 degrees. Hottest ever temperature recorded in Minnesota. I mean, that's wicked, blistering hot. We'll still talk about high temperatures in the mid to upper 90s. Triple-digit heat index numbers around the state, and that's the kicker here. International, you've got it written down.
I do.
International Falls, and then, you know, anytime there's like that clickbait that's online,
Because it's startling. International Falls is going to hit 100 degrees. Said no one never.
Hold on. International Falls.
Should I
Repeat
let the
after me.
weatherman do his
International. Here, I'm just going to write this for you. I'm going to write down a 3-letter word here. International Falls may hit a temperature of 100 degrees today. There's nothing in weather that's an absolute, unless it happens. It doesn't happen until it happens. And I just checked. International Falls, as of the 4 p.m. update, was 95.
But 95 for International Falls
It is hot.
Still hot.
You know, when we talk about breaking records, though, there's a lot of, you know, we forecast. That's like saying, I'm going to drive to Des Moines and I'm going to get there in 2 hours and 37 minutes. You're like, are you sure? You're like, that's not you can't say for sure that's going to happen. In weather, it's the exact same thing. I don't think International Falls is going to hit 100. 100 degrees is like epic.
I mean,
epic.
I know it's hot. I think that the big takeaway from this is it is an extreme heat warning. Check on your most vulnerable. You brought up a good point with the dogs, but it is not something that is unusual.
No, but here's something, and I don't think people know this. We talk about the heat index, right? Oh, the heat index, that's what really gets you. Did you know, Courtney? It's Courtney, isn't it? Courtney, I joke. The heat index is actually calculated for how it feels in the shade. And there'll be something you'll start to hear more and more about. I was on the on KFAN with Dan Barrera a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about this. I said, Dan, brace yourself. I'm going to hit you with something. I don't think Dan really likes the new stuff. He likes things the way they are. So there's something called the wet bulb globe temperature. And the early adopters on this were the armed forces, where we're sending people from, you know, Colorado or Washington State off into some very hot, humid areas. The difference between the wet bulb globe temperature and the heat index is the heat index is formulated for how it feels in the shade. So triple-digit heat index, that means that's the way it is in the shade. The wet bulb global temperature is how it feels in direct sunlight. There's a massive difference, right? 101 in the shade, you're like, wow, that's hot. That would probably be 113 in the direct sunshine.
So when I open up the Fox 9 weather app and I see it says right now 90 degrees, is it really 90 degrees or is it feels like 100?
So the actual, let's do it right now. Let's open it together, the Fox.
Shall we? I was actually on the website, not the app.
It's 92 degrees right now in the cities, and it feels like 96. The dew point is 67. If that dew point was like 71 or 72, so it's temperature and humidity, dew point. That's where the heat index comes from. The body's inability to cool down, right? You know how we cool down, right? We sweat, we perspire. And as you sweat, no, I know you don't.
I don't sweat.
You glow.
Yes, exactly.
So as you sweat, the moisture comes out of your body and sits on your skin. It's our body's way to say, please cool me down. And when that perspiration evaporates, we call that evaporative cooling. There is a phase change from the moisture into a vapor, and that steals heat from your body. And you go, oh, I feel cooler now. The biggest problem is that when dew points get to 70 degrees and above, no matter how much you perspire, it doesn't evaporate. So you actually feel hotter. That's a part of the heat index.
I want to ask you about, there are some parts of the state that are still in drought-like conditions.
Oh, and then some, yeah.
Does this long stretch of heat make those situations worse?
Well, it's a long stretch of heat. So here, I said on the air last night, it's going to be a wicked week. We're talking about heat, humidity, and sunshine. There is not a drop of rain in my forecast. So what was dry last week and the week before, and then people say, oh my God, we got so much rain here. And we go around and do the town ball tour. And we went to Sleepy Eye. Sleepy Eye was bone dry. Newell, just a spot down the road had almost had too much rain.
Yeah.
And it is feast or famine. We sometimes paint the entire state with a brush because we live in the metro, but the entire state is very, very different. The drought monitor is released every Thursday morning. We should talk on Thursday. I think the next drought monitor is going to be very, very bad for some parts of Minnesota, especially if you had lots of moisture and your beans were looking good, but then you need more moisture. Not a lot, but you need some during the growing season. We just haven't got there yet. And by the way, some people will say, oh, you're just a city meteorologist. What do you know? I mean, I grew up on the Canadian prairies. My father-in-law was an alfalfa farmer. I love my farming friends, and I love to talk about it. I think some people let their eyes roll back in their head, though, when you start talking about farmers.
I mean, we're seeing flooding in southern Minnesota, and then you hear about drought somewhere else. So it's the tale of two states right now. I mean, some it's like you said, feast or famine. It's some have too much water, some would desperately like some more.
Oh, and it's great. I go out on my lawn. Here's a perfect example. My side lawn, that's a weird flex. There's a little strip of grass next to my driveway. It's cooked. I don't water.
Because you don't have sprinklers on it.
And another part where we've got a bunch of flowers, so I water. It's gorgeous, right? And so, I mean, that's within, 50 feet. So think about towns that are 50 miles apart, or 5 miles apart, or 500 miles apart. It is going to be one of those summers where some people have the greatest growing season ever, while others, it's a tough time for farmers.
You just reminded me to turn my sprinklers back on. I'd turned them off because we had gotten so much rain.
Yeah.
Now you just reminded me I got to go home and turn it back on. So.
Yeah.
And I think you just signed yourself up to come back on our show on Thursday. So.
I'm very busy on Thursday. Thursdays are very busy. By the way, Wednesday, don't even try because England plays Argentina in the semifinal.
That's
of the
a
World
big day
Cup.
for Ian Leonard.
Do you even think of asking me to do anything? The answer is N-O spells no, and you are not it.
Okay, great. I didn't even ask you about the wildfires. Should we talk about that?
Well, I mean, that's all part of the drought situation. Yeah. A lot of these wildfires are in very small pockets well to the north. When we talk about Minnesota basically has two zones. We have the boreal forest, which used to be a lot further south toward Mille Lacs. That has retreated back into northern Minnesota, back into parts of Ontario and Manitoba, Canada. We used to call that the lungs of North America. And it keeps retreating. But there are plenty of places up there where there are fires are burning and there's no roads. So you could say, oh, it's near this particular location. And most people go, I lived here my whole life. I've never heard of it before. These are very rural pockets, and it burns. It's going to burn. These are pockets that burn every year, and I think we as humans, we're like, can't burn. We got to put it out. Sometimes the burning is a part of the natural cycle, but I get the notion that people want to put it out, and we should put it out. I get it.
And we did have a wildfire prevention specialist from the DNR on just a short while ago, and she said, fire is a part of the natural process, so we do need to let these fires burn as long as they're not coming close to...
Right, that's where we get crazy. Oh, call in the tankers, let's put it all out. And you're like, this is old growth forest. It needs to, it's kind of like cutting your grass.
It is.
It's
nature's natural process. So, nature's natural process? I don't know.
And that's all the news for today.
My dad told me I need to be nicer to you on TV, so I'm trying real hard.
You know what? Your dad, I love your dad. He's a very smart man. You should listen to him.
And you do know my dad, so you
I
can
love
say
your dad.
that,
Your dad's the greatest. By the way, if he's watching, it's good advice.
All right, I love you. Chief Meteorologist Ian Leonard, appreciate you. We'll see you on Thursday. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back. Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty announced earlier today that federal law enforcement authorities have turned over previously withheld evidence connected to the shootings of 3 Minnesotans by federal law enforcement agencies during Operation Metro Surge this past winter. We want to take a look back and play for you the press conference that she held earlier today. Take a listen.
July, which marks 6 months since Renee Good and Alex Preddy were shot and killed by federal officers, and Julio Sosa Solis was shot and injured, also by a federal officer. 6 months of relentless collective effort by our office, the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and Attorney General Keith Ellison's office to obtain and review all of the evidence in these cases. Today, I am proud to announce that we have reached another important milestone in our work. Through the cooperation of our federal partners, we have obtained the hard drives of previously withheld evidence in the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy and the shooting of Julio Sosa Solis. We have also obtained some of the physical evidence that was previously withheld, including Renee Good's car. Our lawyers are working collaboratively with the BCA, the Attorney General's Office, and our federal partners to facilitate ongoing evidence exchange. The BCA has also shared its files on these cases with the U.S. Attorney's Office. I want to thank our federal partners for their willingness to consider changing course to share evidence and promote public trust. Obtaining this evidence has been a priority for us since January 7th. It has been rightfully demanded by our community for the past 6 months. The collective effort from our staff, the Attorney General's Office, and the BCA to make this happen is staggering. We are incredibly grateful for the ongoing pro bono support we've received from the Washington Litigation Group and the Institute for Constitutional Advocacy and Protection at Georgetown. I have been consistent that we have not prejudged any of these instances, and also that we need transparency. We need cooperation. Our community needs it. Alex Preddy and Renee Good's families deserve it. Julio Sosa Solis deserves it. Our democracy requires it. For the 2 cases where we have filed charges against federal officers, we reached those decisions after thorough, fair, and complete review of the available evidence. After receiving this evidence, we immediately began to analyze it in the context of the evidence that we already had. This analysis is ongoing, and it will be every bit as thorough, fair, and complete. We are committed to seeing this through, to making a decision and being transparent about it, no matter where the evidence takes us. We're in the process of going through all that evidence. We did get the hard drives from our federal partners. That includes statements, that includes body-worn camera. We got, and the BCA currently has Renee Good's car. That has been analyzed. We are not at the point now to be able to talk about the state of any of the evidence. We are thoroughly looking at it to make sure, to actually see what we have and put things together. This has been an ongoing process. These conversations actually never stopped from when Renee Good was shot and killed. We have continuously been having conversations. And if you want to look at the conversations or get kind of an overview of those, you can look at our federal lawsuit, because we do document in there the conversations that we've been having. So in some respect, they never stopped. I believe we received the first evidence here about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago. I can't give you an exact date because this has just been ongoing for weeks. The BCA, our staff, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the FBI have all been having conversations since January 7th. about sharing this information. That's been very up and down, as we've recorded in our federal lawsuit. For whatever reason, and I think it's because all of our federal partners here understand that it's important to get back to the way things have always been. It is important to get all of this information to us for the sake of potential accountability and at least transparency. I've said from the beginning here that anytime the government is responsible in whatever way for taking the life of a community member, we need to have a full and thorough and complete investigation, and we need transparency in what a decision is, and we need transparency into how we got there. So we are simply grateful that our federal partners moved to the place where they recognize how important this is as well. But that since the beginning, when Renee Good was shot and killed, everybody has been putting pressure on the federal government, because everybody expects that when a person in the community is shot and killed by the government, that there is a thorough and complete investigation. That clearly was not happening. So you've seen that from any number of people in elected positions, appointed positions, to try to get us back to a point where that was how it worked, because it's critically important for trust, the community, and just for justice here. People need to understand what happened here. They need to hear what our decision is, and they need to hear why.
All right, that was Mary Moriarty talking about new evidence, a dumping of evidence, as they said, regarding the Alex Preddy and Renee Good shootings. She did not announce today whether she planned on charging, so no charging decision was announced today. That press conference was just to announce that they are finally seeing some cooperation with federal authorities and that they have received evidence that they have been asking for months now. I did want to bring up some update to news that we've been covering. So we know that an individual was shot and killed by federal agents in Maine today. We just got reports in that Senator Angus King spoke with Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin, who said the man shot by federal agents in Biddeford was not the target of the warrant. So that is according to the Maine senator, the senator from Maine, that the subject that was killed was not the target of the warrant that they were trying to execute. Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin initially told Senator King that the man who was fatally shot was the target of the warrant. Now they are switching gears on that. So some news out of Maine. Let's get back to some news happening here locally. Probably the biggest story this week is the extreme heat warning that is in effect until 9 p.m. on Thursday. We just talked to Chief Meteorologist Ian Leonard about it. And it continues to impact all kinds of things. So let's jump into that. Wildfires are something that this heat is playing a role in. They continue to burn across northern Minnesota. More than a dozen fires are currently burning up near the Boundary Waters Canoe area. Governor Tim Walz has declared a peacetime emergency and activated the National Guard as firefighters are battling multiple blazes up there. During a press conference earlier today with the U.S. Forest Service, officials said that they intend to keep that closure as short as possible, as they know it does impact tourism in the area. But right now, they said, is an all-hands-on-deck operation with a focus on aerial support. And also having to do with the heat, health officials are warning that you're going to want to check city and county websites before you head to the beach to try and cool off, because several metro area beaches have temporarily closed due to elevated E. coli levels. Likely this is caused by recent rainfall washing bacteria into area lakes. And then, as we know, when this happens, the heat doesn't help. So this is pretty expected when we have recent rain and then it gets really hot. Usually it brings those E. coli levels up. So officials say no illnesses have been reported, but swimmers should look for the latest in water quality before they head to the water. And a large fire heavily damaged a Rosemount church this morning, sending thick black smoke into the sky and drawing firefighters from multiple agencies. We have some aerial footage here. It's pretty stunning. Crews responded just before 11 a.m. to an Ethiopian Orthodox church there in Rosemount. This church was formerly the Lighthouse Church. Authorities believe the building was unoccupied and no injuries have been reported, but clearly extensive damage to that building as the cause remains under investigation. And police are asking for the public's help today following an apparent road rage incident on Interstate 35E in Eagan. Investigators say multiple shots were fired at another vehicle Saturday evening, damaging it but causing no injuries. They're looking for a white Ford F-150 and urge anyone with information to contact Eagan Police. In some tragic news today out of the Wisconsin-Minnesota border, 2 of 3 people who were killed in a boat accident over the weekend on Lake Pepin have been identified as firefighters with the Wabasha Fire Department. So 3 people are dead following that boat accident that happened Saturday night near Deer Island on the Minnesota-Wisconsin border. 3 other boaters were rescued from the crash after clinging to the overturned vessel. Authorities say that the pontoon collided with a commercial barge before capsizing. And you know what, Kara, since we're talking about the heat, do we have that graphic we can pull up on the cooling centers? Let's pull that up quick if you can. I'm sorry to put you on the spot there. Because with this extreme heat, of course, there are concerns about individuals who are living without air conditioning, as there are plenty who face that here. But there are cooling centers opening across Hennepin County and Ramsey County. Grace made this beautiful graphic for us, so I wanted to pull it up. But with this extreme heat, heat stroke can kick in very quickly. So the Salvation Army has 7 locations that are hosting cooling centers. You can find all the information on salvationarmynorth.org. Catholic Charities has locations. And then there is also plenty of cooling options in Hennepin County and Ramsey County. These include libraries, YMCAs, even shopping malls. So if it is open, it is probably air conditioned and it's a good place for you to cool off, but you can always head to those websites. They've got maps up, very helpful maps where you can put in your address and it'll tell you some cooling centers. And just a reminder to check on your neighbors and your friends who are more vulnerable. If you have a senior citizen that lives in your neighborhood that you have a relationship with, just remember to check on them because they might not have air conditioning or they're facing some health conditions where this heat can really impact them. So just make sure they're okay. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more after this. Make sure you pull up the primate video because I'm still seeing the cool. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us as we round out the show today. And this is the portion of the show where we like to look at what's trending online. Unfortunately, there were some good ones today that I just don't have the legal authority to show you due to licensing restrictions. Darn it. But this one is pretty heartwarming, pretty cute. A Siamang mother was seen nursing a robin chick after it came into her enclosure at the ABQ Biopark in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So you can see in this footage that the Siamang mother, Eve, cradled the fledgling in her arms. Clearly, her maternal instincts kicked in and prompted her to gently groom, comfort, and even attempt to nurse the bird. Keepers eventually stepped in to safely hand-feed the chick and successfully reunited it with its biological mother. This is just so sweet. I mean, the human instincts of primates, they are so human-like. The way that she found this bird, picked it up, and wanted to care for it. It clearly fell out of its nest near the enclosure, and this sweet primate took it in like it was her own baby. By the way, Siamangs are on the endangered species list, which is why maybe you're looking at that primate saying, that's a funny looking monkey. They're on the endangered species list. So sweet, such motherly love being shown there.
So cute.
I wonder what I want to know is this Siamang a mother? Like, has she had babies? Does she know?
Right.
You know,
She could
has
be.
she lost a baby? You know, it was almost sad to watch. Like,
this is like a Disney movie.
Could be a Disney movie. Yep,
It is.
could be.
This would be like some Disney animated movie.
I imagine, though, that they were a little concerned about the robin's safety, as that Siamang is probably pretty strong and doesn't know its own strength. So,
Right.
Yeah, but she even tried to nurse the bird. Oh. I mean, sweet mama.
Sweet mama.
Sweet mama. So sweet. This one is funny, Carol. We don't have video of it because, again, licensing restrictions. But you told me about this. There is a porta potty on the roof.
Yep.
Of the Basilica.
Of the Basilica. So they're doing construction on the Basilica right now in Minneapolis, and so there's scaffolding that goes pretty high up in the sky, and there's a porta potty at the top. So a video is circulating on the internet right now of someone, their view with the door open.
Oh,
if I may.
stop.
Yes.
Stop. So it's
Yes,
someone
it's real.
using the porta potty, and they snapped a photo of their view outside the porta potty, like the skyline outside of the porta potty. Okay?
Yes, correct.
So this viral high-rise porta potty has affectionately been dubbed the Biffy in the Sky.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed.
I know. It was placed there for construction crews who have been restoring the historic building. Obviously, construction has been going on at the Basilica for a very long time now. And yeah, it's recently become a social media phenomenon. So if you're visiting the Basilica and need a bathroom break, I don't know.
I know.
Maybe you can use this one up in the sky. I doubt it.
Courtney, I've got something now. We've got the video, the twins video.
Okay,
We've got just enough time. I just told Courtney about this, but there's a video circulating from the twins game on July 10th. The tarps off thing was going, or the people are in the stand waving their shirts around, and someone else got upset and shoved someone.
Okay.
So we've got this video here.
Fight breaks out at the twins game.
Fight breaks out at the twins game.
Okay, so there they are, the tarps off. The tarps off fans, they're waving their shirts, they're shirtless. There they go, they're excited, they're loving the game. They love what they're seeing. Where does this take a turn here? Pretty soon, oh.
I don't know if maybe like, there we go.
Oh.
There it is.
Oh my. Yeah, he needs to take a chill pill. He needs to take a chill pill. Listen, I don't want to make judgment. I don't know what led up to that confrontation.
Right. Maybe he got whacked in the face with the shirt.
I'm going to say once again for the second time today, I bet alcohol played a factor.
Right. Always does.
Yeah. So if you're going to a Twins game, just please play nice. I don't know who is at fault there, and I don't want to presume, but just please play nice. That's going to do it for us for our show today. We'll be back again tomorrow starting at 2 o'clock. We hope we'll see you then. And remember, stay cool.